Hello and welcome to the Sluice podcast. My name is Charles and I'm your host on this program. Let's talk about performance management in government. Performance. I don't know if you have observed how when elections are drawing near, you see governors who buy up space in the popular TV stations where they try to run programs to show something that they have been doing. And sometimes, some of these programs don't come really good. They don't show much. They don't depict the performance of these governors, as the case may be. So the fact that they thought about performance means that performance is still important, even in spite of all the weaknesses of our electoral system. So a governor believes that even if he has control over fund, maybe could probably, influence certain elections to a certain extent, he still believes that there is a place for performance. And that is why the governor will go and buy up space in the media and start to advertise what he has done. So the question that comes to mind is, shouldn't we do a little bit more about performance management in government? Think about it. Have you listened to when government is talking about budget performance, for example? Budget performance from the perspective of the government is how much money I have released. So if I'm meant to release 100 naira and I have released 70 naira to that particular project, government will say budget performance is 70%. But in the real sense, does release of 70% of the money, does it translate to 70% performance on that project? That is a fundamental question. And it raises a lot of issues. Someone told me, he said, maybe that is why all the key agenda issues of 50 years ago are still the same key agenda issues 50 years after. So if you go and listen to government 50 years ago, they wanted to do electricity. We'll give you electricity for all by the year 2000. You will hear water. Every government wanted to give us water. And they've been wanting to give us water for 50 years. This is 50 years after, there is still no water. If you think about it, there is no single state in Nigeria, not one, that can boast that I provided water for my people 70%. Nobody in Nigeria, not even Abuja, which is the federal capital territory. So the question we must be asking ourselves is, how come the 1971 agenda are still the 2025 agenda? And we're talking about performance, and every government will come out there and tell us how his own government has done well. But there is still no electricity, there is still no water, education is still poor, healthcare is still horrible. So the question is, where is the performance? So what I would like to say today is that we should take a second look at the issue of performance as far as government is concerned. You see, a government must have a vision. A vision, this is where I intend to take the state, or this is where I intend to take Nigeria, if it's at the federal level, or the local government. This exactly is where I hope to be in 4 years, or in 8 years, or in 10 years. Those are visions. Now, somebody might ask, is it for lack of vision? Because there have been vision 2020, vision this, vision that, vision all of this, but nothing has happened with all that vision. The problem still remains performance management. Vision is just one, is the overarching, thing that where you want to be. But after you have set the vision, there has to be a strategy for achieving that vision that you have set forth. Without a strategy, the vision will remain on paper. Now, even with the strategy, you have to be able to translate that strategy to specific deliverables. What are the various component of the whole that will help you to deliver that strategy and by extension, the vision that you seek to achieve. And it is not as complex as it looks. Let's keep it simple and look at works. So if I take the Minister of Works. So Minister of Works is one of those very critical minister on the ministry. Let's say the Ministry of Works. It's one of the most critical ministries that will help to deliver on performance of a government. So the question is, what are the targets that we have given the minister, the person who sits in that saddle? What are the targets we have given him? Are these targets specific? Are they clear? Are they measurable? How do we intend to measure it? Because those elements are very important when it comes to performance management. We must determine clearly what we want that person to deliver. We must determine clearly how we are going to measure it. We must also determine when we are going to measure it. So, for him, one of the things he does is he deal with roads. So he construct new roads, he deal with construction of new roads, repair of roads and all of that. Now think about this. I can give my Minister of Work a target that says 200 kilometers of road in each of the 6 geopolitical regions if I give you 1 trillion naira. That is very specific. So we're telling that minister, I'm going to give you 1 trillion naira. With this 1 trillion naira, you will deliver 200 kilometers of road in each of the 6 geopolitical regions. So it is possible for me to come back in 3 months and begin to ask questions. Mr. Minister, so let's see how many kilometers of road. I've given you 500 million. I've not given you 1 trillion. I've given you 500 billion. So can I look at this 500 billion and say, how many kilometers of road have you delivered? Now, that is something specific. It is measurable. And therefore, I can be able to score my minister and say, you score 75% because instead of when you're supposed to deliver 100, you have delivered only 75. So your score is 75. It's measurable. When we hold people to account with things that can be measured beyond the rhetorics, beyond political statement and defenses of all sorts, we begin to move the nation from a position of agenda item, the 7-point agenda items. I still remember President Yar'Adua's 7-point agenda items up to today. One of the items on that agenda was electricity. So where is the electricity? But where before Yar'Adua we had OBJ was there. He spoke about very passionately about electricity. We understood that without electricity, it's going to be difficult for us to move this nation forward. So he spent money. So the problem wasn't even releasing money, which is how we measure budget performance in Nigeria. How much money has been released? So he released money, plenty of it. Unfortunately, by the time he left the saddle, there was still no electricity. Yar'Adua picked it up from where he left off, and he also had electricity as an agenda item. By the time Yar'Adua died, there was no electricity. All the other guys have taken it from where the last person stopped. They made mouth about it. Nothing was delivered. So for the most part, the problem is not that we don't have great intentions. I can bet that the intention of President Obasanjo was to indeed deliver power. So he went all out to do what he thinks we need to do to get the power. But we failed when it came to performance management. The same thing had continued to run from government to government to government. The last government had a nice idea about how there is a problem. There was already a disconnect between our capacity to generate electricity, the transmission, and then the distribution. So the first project he spoke about was how to optimize that chain. But the optimization eventually did not really happen. And the generation, the suboptimality within that chain had persisted. We are in a new government now. Now, there is a government that will eventually deliver power to this country. And that government will never be forgotten in history. I hope we are there. I think the idea of, what is currently going on with all these band A, band B, and all the rest, maybe it has turned out right in certain ways, but there is a lot of work to be done, a whole lot of work. Because what are we still sharing? What we're sharing is still 5,000 megawatts of electricity. 5,000, where a country like South Africa of 60 million people is over 50,000 megawatts. We need to do something. So when I hear the Minister of Works, for example, talking about the coastal road, and he speaks about the number of kilometers, I like numbers, so I like to hear about the kilometers. But I also like to extend it to several other people, several other ministers, including even he himself, to tell us in clear terms, let's have the specific targets, measurable targets for everybody. The Minister for Water Resources, we've been having water resources for as long as I can remember, So the question you ask yourself is, if we've been having ministers of water resources, commissioners for water resources, where is the water now? It is a fundamental question we must ask ourselves, so that it can lead us in the right direction, where we can give people targets and hold them accountable for the target that we have given them by measuring it. It is in the place of performance management that we'll be able to extract value from the money spent by government on specific projects and specific deliverables. Whether it is the Minister of Livestock, I ask myself, what is the precise? I guess I'm a citizen, I have the right to know what exactly are the deliverables of all of these ministers, so that when they are delivering, we can see, and we can also ask questions when they are not. It should be easy. If the president has a minister and he has given that minister, this is what you need to deliver. When it is time for appraisal, maybe it's a quarter, and you see them, you're supposed to do 100, but you have only done 42. So what do? I date your resignation letter, I kiss you goodbye, I have a handshake with you, bye-bye, and I find somebody else who is going to move us away from the 42% kind of performance into the kind of performance that we would like to see. That is the only way that the electricity agenda that has been on the table since 1971, or wherever it has been on the agenda, whenever it has been on the agenda, can be achieved at some point. And it will not remain a perpetual project. The same thing will go for all other ministries. I just speak on electricity or works at random. There are several ministries with clear deliverables. Ministry of Steel and Power. I think they've been separated now, so there is steel differently, there is power. The steel has remained the Alaja, Aja Okuta, all those things. None of those things have worked for decades. Shouldn't we be asking questions? What exactly did we seek to achieve? Have we achieved them? If we have not achieved them, then what do we need to do? My advocacy would be that we take performance management more seriously. The skills are more abundant and rich and robust in the private sector. If we need to call in the private sector people to help us develop a workable performance management structure for government, we can do it. And this country will be better for it. Thank you for listening to the Sluice podcast today. I hope to see you next week again for another beautiful episode. You can listen to us or you can engage with us on our social media handles, scrolling currently on the screen. Thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.